for many of the regional economies, you have to understand that so much of what multinationals and family businesses need to plan for is driven by government policy. Government policy is driven by what's happening in the oil market. You have oil prices dictate government spending or government revenues, and the revenues impact spending. The spending impacts projects. The projects impact private sector activity. Private sector activity impacts job security or job insecurity, as the case may be, and job insecurity impacts consumption. And that is a pretty useful picture of kind of aggregate demand in many of the economies in this part of the world. So what is it that we need to plan for? Well, you look at the oil price last year, an average oil price of around $44 a barrel. 2017, market consensus is that we have an average oil price of around $55 a barrel. Now, what does that mean for an oil economy? Let's say somewhere like Abu Dhabi. If you're talking about an average oil price of $55 a barrel relative to last year, that means about an 18% increase in revenues for the Abu Dhabi government. And so if you're any organization and you're seeing the guts of a 20% increase in revenues, that's good news. Now, for all of us in the EMIR Boardroom network, it's vitally important we pay attention to what happens in May 25th. Market consensus would be that OPEC plus friends actually increase production cuts. That would be our take on things. And what you see in the longer term is you'll have a floor on the price. The OPEC cuts probably around $50 a barrel, but no one can be sure. And then you'll have a ceiling on the price. So prices won't be able to surge because you'll have more OPEC production come online, which we've seen quite impressively from their perspective over the last 8 months or so. And that means what you're left with is an oil price trading in around between $50, $60, maybe $65 a barrel over the next year or so. Unless, of course, you see a major geopolitical issue or a major political issue around the world. So then you tie into the outlook for the region, and for lots of the multinationals, what you see is the governments have made the fiscal reforms, they've cut subsidies and so on, they have made a lot of cost efficiency savings. You have an oil price that is relatively easy for them, and I stress these things are difficult to predict, but relatively easy for them to predict where the price stability will be. They bring down their break-even price. The governments are starting to feel a little bit more comfortable, and now the focus on is what projects are going ahead. This one has the right return of investment for our economy. This one doesn't. So I think we're now moving on. The chapter is moving to the next chapter slowly for the Middle East and North Africa.